Alright guys, so recently me and my wife purchased some play property up north, and the first thing that we needed to do is we needed to build a place that we would be able to secure our play stuff. So I took some time off of work, I wrangled up the kiddos, and me and the kiddos went up this past week for an extended weekend up north so I could build a shed for the new property. Spoiler alert, a lot of things didn't get recorded, and I will give you those reasons in this video, but that's what we were doing. We were heading up north to the new property, and we were building a shed on this video. Ladies and gentlemen, let's get nasty! Alright, so right behind me is where the shed is actually going to go. If anybody knows why somebody would duct tape a tree, let me know. No idea. Now, we figured this was a good spot because currently it's right next to the camper. It's in the back corner, kind of hidden away. And when we actually do build a cabin, it will be really hidden away. And the back door to the cabin will lead basically right up to that shed. So that's what we're going to do. So first thing I do is I got to clear the area for it. Now, it is unlevel, and that is why I'm going with a pole barn style shed, because that way I don't really care if it's too unlevel. It's going to be a dirt floor. I'm just storing stuff in it for a second property. So clear out some things, dig some holes, get stuff lined up. We're going to go 11.5 feet by 11.5 feet. Why 11.5 and not 12? All my material is 12, and therefore if I want any overhang on my roof, I won't be able to have it. And that way, being 11.5 in, if I'm out of square in any way like that, it's not going to screw me terribly. I have some extra material. Let's start working. Alright, so I've never done anything. Well, I've done something like this before, but never to this level with it. So in order to get this thing squared up and figure out kind of where I want it, I just laid a 12-foot 2x4 on the ground. I'm going to dig 2 holes, because those should be within line of each other. Well, actually, I got to dig 3 holes, but I'll dig 3 holes, those should be in line of each other, and I got to figure out how to square up the rest of my holes. I needed to dig 9 holes in total, and we're surrounded by trees, so I bet you I hit about 5,000 roots. To get things square here, I tried the 3-4-5 method. It just didn't work for me because my ground is so unlevel. I don't have stakes, I don't have rope, I have a string, whatever. So I just built a frame of how big I want it. I squared the frame. I'm going to use those to mark off where I got to dig my holes, because one of the holes I already dug was 6 inches off. So this gives me a better idea. I think it's a lot simpler way for me to do this. So now I can mark my holes, dig them, and then set my posts. I'm going to set this one first because this is my highest point. So I'm going to set this one low, and then I'll level all the way around it, so I'll have bigger gaps towards that back corner, which is a lot smaller. I haven't set these posts yet because I just haven't. So I'm going to level this off, get this, level this. Yeah. I don't know. So you probably notice that I didn't film the majority of the construction portion. And that is simply because I was getting very irritated with trying to get everything leveled and squared up, having a lot of problems, and self-filming while having those issues makes things worse. Then I was also taking care of my kids, who needed stuff, so I just stopped. And I was like, I'll just be done with the video. But I think we can continue on with the video now. I'll tell you how I got through everything, but let me tell you some stuff that kind of went down yesterday while I was trying to do this. So while I'm doing this, my son wanted me to go and help him build his Ford, so I had to stop that. I put together one of those driveway privacy gates. I fabbed it at home, brought it here, wanted to install that. I'll show you some footage of that. So there was just little projects that came up here and there that distracted me while I was doing this. So trying to film, do this, do those. My kids at one point got hungry and wanted dinner, so I had to take care of that. So just things got a little out of hand, and I didn't get a lot of this filmed. My apologies, but let me walk you through and I'll explain things to how this came to here. Also, I ran out of wood. I forgot to buy the runners for the top, and my son was gracious enough to help me with setting the rafters. And when your 10-year-old is nice enough to help you with something, you don't want to stop him to get the camera to film it. So let's just go walk through and I'll show you how everything got set up. Okay, so the bottom runner board right here, that is treated, and then I just did regular non-treated up here. I did a 2x6 topper, which actually holds all of the rafters up, so there gives a little bit of extra support there. And then I ended up having to temporarily screw everything in place to get everything lined up. As you can see, I have this angle piece here to help it stay particularly square and level. And then I went through, and I did record me with the nailer. I went through and just nailed everything together. Now, you should remember when I was starting to put everything together, I said I wanted to start in the high corner and then work my way around. And that's because I knew the ground was unlevel. And as you can see back in that corner over there, it was about 3.5 inches off the ground. I used a 2x4 for a spacer. And this back corner right here is about 10 inches off the ground. That's why I started up there and ran this whole bottom plate board is all level all the way around. And sheeting wise, I can take care of that no problem. And that's why I did the pole barn style, because I knew how uneven this place was actually going to be. So you can see I got a 22.5 degree miter up here. I notched it here, so this flat part rests on that 2x6. We have to go to Menards today so I can get some rafter ties or hurricane straps, whatever they're actually called. Then it runs up another 22.5 inch miter up there, and they come together. I did a scab board to hold them together. Once I figured it out, they were pretty simple to make. You didn't really miss a whole lot, because really it was, you see me cut everything and then it was just put it together, except for the rafters. So let me walk you through kind of how I figured out my rafters and how the angles and all that kind of stuff. So pretend that these are 2x4s, because I don't have enough 2x4s to demonstrate. Also in my pajama pants because kids are still sleeping. So what I did was I ended up taking 2 boards and I screwed them together 138 inches because that's how wide the shed is. So once I had that acted as my fake wall, I guess you'd say. And then I took some 2x4s and I crossed them like that. And then what I did was I measured out and I got the center fake wall right here. And then I took my level, which is somewhere. So I took my level and my square right at the center point. So I wanted to go 2 feet, and I up with my roof line, and so this is 2 feet. I set that at the center point, got that squared up, and then I screwed 1 screw through these 2x4s, and then I just brought them down to here. So I centered them up on the level, and then I measured in 1.5 inches on each end over there, so that would be flat to rest on those 2x6s. And then I just took and I traced out the cutoff points over there, and then I ran and I did a line on each side of the board where it crossed, and then that gave me my angle here, which matched the angles all right there. Basically that's how I did it, is I just laid it out on the ground the way I would want it, and then I was able to cut everything. And then once it was, I cut one, made sure that it was right before I cut the rest of them. But that's how I did the rafters, because I wasn't too sure. I don't know the correct way to do it, so I just basically make a jig on the ground and trace out where things got to go. Pretty simple. Basically, it is measure, cut, screw the panel on, repeat a million times. Right now, though, what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in right here some 2x, because these are where the doors are going to obviously go. I need something solid to screw the doors into. So I'm going to do that, and then again, it's just cut, measure, cut, install for this wall and the roof for the meantime. So we're hanging J channels around the door frame. That way it'll allow that metal to slide into something and make it give it a cleaner look. Now I'm using vinyl J channel because it's cheaper than metal. It's a little easier to work with. And it'll actually look really good with the khaki with the brown, but it was a lot cheaper than metal. And again, I'm in the middle of nowhere. I don't really care a whole lot about the aesthetics. It just has to function. That would help her. Alright, so this wall, all the walls are all sheeted. So now what I have left is the roof. Now a couple of tricks that I came up with on this is cut backwards. So I flip my metal upside down. It's a lot easier because with the metal being corrugated, if you're trying to cut this way, you're running into these humps compared to if you're cutting this way, you're trying to cut those lovely lady lumps in the bottom. So those little valleys. So I would recommend turning it upside down. Also, what I did for these angles up here, on the other side, I put it up, drew my line, and then took it down. Over here, I just put it up and then I ran it through it with the angle grinder and cut up there, which is a little bit easier. So now we are on to the roof. So now I've got to put on the corner pieces. Now these pieces have to be flat on one side and then angle up on the other side to match the peak. So what I'm doing is, on the flat side, I just measured from the ground all the way up inside the channel, square edge, squaring it up. Now for that angled side, I'm just taking cut off of the actual angle of the roof. I'm using that, and that should give me the angle that I need, which it does because I've already used that technique. So line it up, draw your line, and cut it. And that gives me both my angles, both my sides for the corners.
Hello?
Who's there?
Yo.
Yo who?
Yo mama.
God.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Yo.
Joe who?
Yo dada.
Alright, so these corner pieces now are going to go right over here. And then they fit just like that around the corner. Alright, so it is all up and almost complete-ish. What we got left here is the doors. Now I'm going to take some 2x2s. I'm going to make 2 frames because I'm going to make these 2 doors that swing out, and then I'll put the metal on this. But camera is dying, so I don't know how much that you will see.
So the camera died yesterday before I could show you guys anything of the doors, but I got everything completed yesterday. Let me show you what we got. So I got the latch all done, and here's how the doors are built. Again, I told you I just went with the 2x2 framing. I measured my door opening divided it by 2 for 2 doors, made 2 squares out of 2x2s, and then just wrapped them in the sheeting. So this project overall took me 15 hours or so by myself to complete. Kiddos helped me a little bit, also worked with this metal sheeting a little bit, but never to this massive extent. I've done a couple small roofs, that's about it. Had I have not had to keep my kids alive, it probably would turn out a little bit better. But overall, I'm actually pretty happy with it. But yeah, overall, it's done. It locks. It's pretty decently secured. That's what I really wanted. I'll show you the inside. So the inside, it's your pretty standard pole barn. It's 11.5 by 11.5. Roof peak is over 8 feet. The one thing I am concerned about is the rafters only being 2x4s with snow load, but I think it's gonna be fine. Me and my son were up on the top of the peak before I had any of the metal up, and that's over 300 pounds of weight, and it didn't deflect at all. I think a lot of the snow is gonna come right off, but I may end up adding a little bit more roof support later on. But as you can see over here, I did put a bench in, or a shelf, and at one point, because this is just a straight up dirt floor, I will be making a couple of little platforms that I can set stuff on, that I don't have to worry about any water coming in and getting everything all wet. But really, that is it. I know some of the important parts of the build I didn't record, like the doors or basically the framing itself. So I'll leave you guys with some play footage from this weekend. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you guys at least enjoyed it a little bit. I'll see you guys on the next one. So after I shot the video, I was reviewing some of the footage, and I really didn't like the way the doors looked. So I wrapped them right in the centers and in the top with that extra J channel that I had, and I must say it made a crazy difference. Looks a lot better. The latch portion, that is just that treated 2x4, next time I'm up, I'll paint that brown to match. I think it'll actually look a lot better now.